we were approved that we did the job right and it failed in 2 years' time and we got paid to do it again over and over because the liner was no good.
Sir, are you saying you did that at a landfill or an oil and gas?
No, it's an oil and gas. Same liner. Same liner. All right? You're already telling me household garbage. You can't tell what goes into there. So you already have the oils and everything going in there. I don't care if it's cooking oil or if it's battery acid or whatever's thrown in the back. The same thing's going in there as you're calling ultra bottle. Am I right?
There's all kinds of stuff going in there, and in small quantities.
So versus, I've seen 2 years, last 2 years. You're trying to tell me this thing's gonna last 100? It's not gonna happen. And you're over our aquifer. If y'all move the dump where there is no aquifer, I don't think anybody in this building would have a problem with that.
My name is Ann, and I'm Christopher Gentleman here. The gentleman before me asked you for some assurances on some of this stuff, and the way you phrased it was, we're going to kind of learn as we go. I live a mile from this proposed dump, and it's going to poison our water. It's going to poison the livestock, which is food that people eat. We drink from here, our livestock drink from here. But you can't assure anything.
I think it's important that you ask that question and know, try to have some confidence in the design here. What I've attempted to do is explain the different layers of operations and design that go into this thing. So to prevent the risk of a problem from occurring, pulling the water out, having the groundwater monitoring, so if there should ever be a problem, action can be taken very quickly. And all of this points to protection of your public health and the environment and the groundwater.
Okay.
So that's the system that's used nationwide on landfills these days.
Okay, and that system has been in place for 100 years, which is pretty much what this proposed dump is going to be in service for? The answer is no. You already answered that earlier.
Yes, the answer is no. Now, there has been some accelerated testing of the plastics and so forth, and they hold up for that period of time. Now, but also remember, when you close this thing up, you're sealing the top of it, and you're not going to have more water injected into the waste. That's going to be a potential to leak out.
Okay, and the gentleman also commented on the gas produced from the landfill. And I personally have sent some information to Mr. O'Dell on landfills that have spontaneously combusted. We are in a working oil field area. We're going to be blown up. I'm sorry, that's how I feel about that. I live very close. I know pretty much I can say that none of you live in the direct area of where this is going to be placed. I personally think it's going to be harmful for all of us that live in this area.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I have a couple of questions, a couple for y'all and one for y'all. First, the engineers. I want to address the liner, the 60 mil liner. There is decomposition that occurs in organic matter. Organic matter is what makes up a waste, MSW. That decomposition process creates heat. How does that affect this liner?
I don't think you're really going to see that impact. There is some heat that can occur, but you have this huge mass. You have the earth that's dissipating all the heat. So you really don't see a significant rise in temperature in a landfill that I'm familiar with.
Have you ever heard of mulch pile catching spontaneously combusting. That is because of the naturally occurring decomposition process of organic matter. It does create heat. It will create heat over 1,500 degrees. I don't care how big of a hole you put it in, it's going to get hot.
Yeah. You've got a different kind of decomposition going on in a landfill, and you're exactly right on that. And that's an aerobic system. That's where you have oxygen bacteria. You introduce oxygen, and you want that heat, and it helps break down things. Now, in a landfill, you have an anaerobic system, so you have bacteria that are living in an oxygen deficient atmosphere. So you have a different set of conditions, and you don't get those kind of heats.
As a nurse, I'm very, very, very aware of aerobic and anaerobic. And spontaneous combustion can occur in an anaerobic environment and has occurred and continues to occur. In fact, a good majority of the landfill spontaneous combustions that are going on is due to this decomposition heat. Does it not alarm you that there is even maybe a slight little chance that that heat may compromise that liner?
I'm not familiar with that ever being a problem at a landfill. You know, as far as fires and so forth, at landfill, sometimes it's usually in your, if it would occur, it's usually in your active operations area, and you bring, somebody brings in a hot load from a burning barrel. Possibly there could be some spontaneous combustion, but I'm not familiar with it being a problem, and it's usually localized, and it would be where you take care of it in your active operations.
But as engineers, you have to deal with probabilities. Do you think this is a possibility?
When you say this is a possibility, so let me just make sure that what I'm answering. The heat on the liner?
Yes.
No, I do not believe that'd be a problem, and because the waste is not directly against the liner. There's 2 feet of buffer material to make sure nothing punctures the liner. So you have that as an insulator, and I think the landfill fires you're talking to that occur in the closed cells are where they're not anaerobic is the problem, that they're overdrawing on their landfill gas collection systems, and they're pulling in oxygen, and that's what allows them to combust. So it is controlled, as long as the system is operated properly, and that's easily done.
Do you think that it is possible in a human body for it to possibly spontaneous combust? It's an anaerobic environment.
Right?
It happens.
It has happened, but when it happens,
Yes,
I'm not
it has.
sure that it's anaerobic at the time it happens.
Okay. Along those same lines, are you aware of Dr. Fred Lee
No, sir.
and his report on these liners?
No, sir. I'm sorry.
He took a 100 mil liner and did a report on that, did a study on it, wanted to see, and was actually trying to prove that things are good. He took simple household products, margarine, vinegar, leftover booze, and he didn't fill a liner with it. He just put a coating on it. Within 2 weeks, that 100 mil liner was completely compromised. Full depth, a hole completely through it. Does that not worry you?
I have not seen the study, sir.
Okay. I want to touch for a second on the monitoring wells. The monitoring wells are going to be 300 to 600 feet apart. Let's take the 300-foot number. We'll take the lowest one, make them the closest together. When there is a leak in this liner, it creates a plume of leachate. Is that a correct statement?
basically groundwater that would have some low-level contaminants.
The leachate would create a plume that, is it possible for that plume to never reach one of those two, one of the monitoring sites around it? Is that possible?
Yeah, it can stay underneath the landfill and never migrate outside the landfill, I suppose. Because the monitoring wells are around the landfill.
Okay, then underneath this liner is the clay. The clay, anybody that lives around here, personally, I'm from Lockhart, we have the same clay. And it will make a crack that I could jump in. So that's going to create a conduit for that plume, or is it possible for it to create a conduit to the aquifer and it never ever be picked up by the monitoring wells?
No, sir, because we're monitoring the aquifer.
So it'll never, it's not possible for it to reach it, the monitors will pick it up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when the diffusion occurs of the plume and it gets in one of these cracks of that clay and it takes off, wherever that crack takes it, might take it 10 miles down the road and then dump, but it's going to dump it into the aquifer. It's going to take the path of least resistance. It's what water does. The monitoring wells would never pick that up. Isn't that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct. I mean, your supposition is there will be this large crack in the liner, and I don't believe it's possible.
No. I'm past the liner. We have a small leak in the liner.
Okay, well.
Then it gets to what is being expressed as the major safety net. The liner is only a secondary safety net to protect our water from the.
It's a composite liner. It's a HDPE and the.
Okay, so once the leachate gets through that liner, okay, so
I'm sorry, sir.
B liner, B plastic liner.
The plastic, got it.
Gets down to the clay. Then you have diffusion occur of the leachate, jumps into one of those cracks and carries it away from the monitoring wells and deposits it into the aquifer in another location 5 miles down the aquifer. The monitoring wells, it's possible for the monitoring wells to never pick that up.
No, sir.
Is that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct.
Okay. I disagree. I have a question for TCQ. Well, let's go back to the polyliner. Do household products have the possibility of breaking down the liner?
In a concentrated form or as they're placed in the liner? Or in the landfill?
As they're put in there.
No, sir, I don't believe they do. This has been thoroughly tested. The leachate is monitored, so the chemical constituents are very well known from the testing of MSW landfills, and the liners are compatible with the leachate that is developed in the landfill.
If I was to bring you Dr. Lee's report, who is a world-renowned chemical engineer, and he says that 100% of these liners fail, 100%, and he was trying to prove that they're good with the 100 mil, and it went the opposite direction than what he thought it was going to. If I was to bring you his report with his seal on it, would that make you question that liner?
I'd be happy to read the report, sir, but I can't tell you what my conclusion will be because I haven't seen it.
Okay. I have a question for TCQ.